Welcome back. Coinology. In the heart of American history, buried under the ordinary clatter of loose change, there exists a coin that whispers stories of mystery, passion, and unimaginable worth. The 1975 D1 coin, born from humble beginnings in the minting presses of Denver, is not just a small copper disc, it is a window into the persistence of craftsmanship, the changing face of American money, and the never-ending fascination collectors hold for even the tiniest details that most eyes will never notice. Every time a penny like this passes through someone's hand, it carries a trace of that long heritage, a breath of the era that created it. The 1970s were a time of uncertainty, inflation, and technological progress, and the little Lincoln cent mirrored all of that. Imagine the year 1975. Gas lines stretching down city blocks, inflation climbing, the echoes of the Vietnam War still fresh in the American consciousness, and the nation preparing to celebrate its bicentennial in just one more year. In Denver, Colorado, the mint's massive presses pounded day and night, striking millions of coins that would soon scatter across the nation's pockets, drawers, and vending machines. Among those countless strikes was the simple, reddish-brown piece we now call the 1975 D penny. To the mint workers, it was routine, but to today's collectors and historians, every single detail of that coin, the size of Lincoln State, the glint of copper under fluorescent light, the faint D mint mark nestled beneath the year, tells a story that is anything but ordinary. The 1975 D Lincoln cent weighed 3.11 grams when it left the mint, composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. That alloy had been the standard since 1962, a continuation of the metal mixture that defined American pennies through decades of change. Touch it, and you can feel the density, the unmistakable metallic warmth that only copper gives. Hold it long enough, and the metal scent stays on your fingertips, a subtle reminder that this coin was forged from Earth itself, from ores pulled from American mines. On its obverse, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln sits tall and thoughtful, designed originally by Victor David Brenner back in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. 70 years later, that same solemn profile still looked ahead with quiet determination. Every line in his beard, every curve of his cheekbone, every subtle indentation in his coat speaks of the incredible precision of the mint's engraving process. Above his head arches the proud phrase, "In God We Trust," a constant proclamation of national faith. To the left, the word liberty, etched with clarity, representing the foundation upon which the nation was built. And to the right, the date 1975, each numeral clear, squared, and upright, anchored by the tiny letter D, denoting the Denver Mint, an unassuming mark that would later elevate certain examples of this coin to legendary status. Turn it over, and the reverse glows with the familiar image of the Lincoln Memorial. This design, introduced in 1959 for the centennial of Lincoln's birth, replaced the earlier wheat-ear motif. The memorial appears almost architectural, every column aligned, each one representing a state of the Union at the time of its construction. Look closely with a magnifying glass, and within that tiny temple, sitting between the columns, you can actually glimpse the miniature silhouette of Lincoln himself, immortalized again inside his own monument, a coin within a monument within a coin. Beneath the building, the simple words 1 cent, and above, United States of America, spread with balanced symmetry, framed by e pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. For most people, the 1975 D penny was nothing more than spare change, but time has a way of changing what we value. While billions of pennies circulated unnoticed, a few exceptional examples somehow slipped through with characteristics so unique, so perfect, or flawed in exactly the right way, that collectors decades later would pay astonishing sums to possess them. In numismatics, rarity, condition, and error can combine to transform a 1 cent coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. The myth of the 1975 D cent valued at $48 million is more than just a collector's dream, it is a reflection of how small artifacts can capture the human imagination. Rumors began circulating in collector communities about a mysterious specimen, flawless in its strike, perhaps accidentally produced on a planchet intended for another denomination, or minted with an experimental metal composition. Some claimed it bore microscopic differences in the date numerals, others said the D mint mark appeared doubled, as though the die had shifted ever so slightly during the striking process. A few even whispered that a prototype pattern piece had escaped the mint before the bicentennial year began, making it not just rare, but practically mythical. As these stories spread, so did the fascination. Television segments and online videos began to discuss the possibilities, showing viewers that even the most ordinary object could hide secrets. Collectors began to examine their 1975 D cents under magnification, searching for anomalies, a slight doubling of the motto, an off-center strike, a polished planchet with mirror-like fields that could indicate a proof-like finish. Each discovery, real or imagined, added new energy to the legend. In truth, the 1975 D cent was never officially minted in proof format, those coins came from San Francisco, marked with an S, but what if, people wondered, a proof die had accidentally been sent to Denver? What if a few experimental strikes had been made before being destroyed, and somehow one had slipped into circulation? Stories like these are not impossible, history has recorded similar events before. Coins such as the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die obverse began as mistakes, then became icons worth fortunes. And so, the 1975D inherited that same aura of possibility. The design of the coin itself carries symbols deeper than most realize. Lincoln's forward-facing portrait represents progress, the idea that the nation must always look ahead. The memorial on the back serves as both remembrance and unity. The inclusion of e pluribus unum bridges those two concepts, honoring the past while reminding every citizen that diversity and togetherness are the pillars of the American experiment. Even the choice of copper, a metal that weathers slowly, mirrors Lincoln's enduring influence. Over time it darkens, deepens, yet never truly fades. During the mid-1970s, the U.S. Mint faced a dilemma. The cost of copper was rising, threatening to make the production of each penny more expensive than its face value. Internal discussions began about changing the metal composition, but it would not be until 1982 that the Mint transitioned to a primarily zinc planchet coated with copper. Thus, the 1975D sits near the end of an era, one of the last generations of true solid copper cents. When you hold a piece of that transition, a relic from when pennies still felt substantial in the hand. As time marched on, collectors began grading coins with ever-increasing precision. Mint-stake grades MS60, MS65, MS67, MS69 became badges of perfection. A typical 1975D found in change might grade only VF or EF, worn smooth by years of pocket friction. But a handful, carefully stored since their minting, retained their original luster. Under bright light, those pristine surfaces flash with red brilliance, showing subtle RF40 using billions of coins that fueled the western half of the country's economy. In 1975, rows of massive presses operated with deafening rhythm, each die clamping down with tens of tons of force per strike. The heat, the smell of metal, the constant vibration, all were part of the birth of the 1975D cent. Workers inspected samples under microscopes, adjusting pressures to maintain uniformity. Yet even with modern precision, perfection was impossible, and that's what fascinates collectors today. Tiny errors, die cracks, misalignments, filled mint marks, became unintentional signatures of individuality within mass production. To imagine how one coin could reach a supposed value of $48 million, one must think not in terms of metal but of story. The true worth of any artifact is the power of its narrative. The tale of a single penny traveling through decades, surviving recessions, wars, and countless hands, until one day it surfaces again and captures the world's attention. That is what creates fascination. People are not simply buying copper, they are buying a story, a moment in time, a promise of discovery. For collectors, the search for such coins becomes almost spiritual. The story of the 1975D penny does not end when it leaves the minting press. In truth, that moment is only the coin's first breath. From the instant the blank copper planchet is struck by the dies, it begins a journey that mirrors the American spirit itself, one of travel, exchange, survival, and rediscovery. To understand why collectors and dreamers attach such staggering values to a single cent, we have to step back into the mint itself and feel the heartbeat of the machines that created it. Inside the Denver Mint, the smell of heated metal mingled with oil and grease. Conveyor belts rattled and clanked, feeding blank copper discs, planchets, into the jaws of massive presses. Each planchet had been cut from long sheets of rolled copper alloy, measured precisely to the thousandth of an inch. Before striking, they were annealed in roaring furnaces, softening them for the violent impact that awaited. Tumbling through spinning drums, they were cleaned and polished, acquiring that faint reddish glow that would later shine under circulations where the coining press functioned with an elegance that was almost musical. A blank would slide between the dies, the upper and lower halves snapping shut with 40 tons of pressure, and in an instant, the face of Lincoln appeared. His profile emerged from raw metal as if sculpted by lightning. The obverse die bore his portrait, the reverse carried the Lincoln memorial, and the collar around the planchet formed the coin's smooth, raised edge. The D mint mark, small yet essential, had been punched by hand on the working die, a process that always carried the possibility of human variation. Sometimes the punch was slightly tilted, sometimes doubled, sometimes filled with grease, producing tiny differences that today command intense scrutiny. For the mint workers, these details were routine. They inspected samples, weighed random coins to ensure they met the standard 3.11 gram specification, and listened for irregular sounds that indicated die wear. When a die began to crack or show fatigue, it was retired and replaced. But those short-lived dies, used only briefly, sometimes struck a few dozen coins with unique anomalies, raised lines from die cracks, extra thickness in letters, or faint doubling on the date. Those anomalies, invisible then, became treasures later. It's easy to forget that a coin surface is not smooth. Under magnification, it's a microscopic landscape of ridges and valleys, formed by metal flowing into engraved recesses. One coin might have slightly sharper details on Lincoln's hair, another might display softer lettering because the die polish had worn away a fraction of detail. To a collector, these minute differences formed the language of rarity. Every imperfection is a signature, proof that human hands and mechanical limits still shape the supposedly perfect process of minting. After striking, thousands of newly minted 1975 D cents clattered into steel bins, the noise echoing like thunder. They were later bagged in canvas sacks, each holding thousands of coins, then sealed and shipped to banks across the western United States. From there, the coins entered circulation. Some went into cash registers, some into vending machines, some into the pockets of factory workers and schoolchildren. Every scratch, every edge bruise, every faint discoloration recorded the physical memory of where it had been. By the late 1970s, most 1975 D cents already showed wear, only a small fraction remained in untouched rolls, preserved by banks or collectors who had an instinct that even ordinary dates might someday matter. Decades later, when numismatics matured into a global hobby with online auctions and professional grading services, those preserved coins became time capsules. A single uncirculated red-tone 1975 D cent could suddenly leap from face value to hundreds of dollars when sealed in a plastic holder by professional graders. This act of certification transformed the humble penny into an artifact of trust, its grade authenticated, its surfaces immortalized. And once humans attach official labels to anything, value multiplies. Somewhere between this human impulse for preservation and our hunger for stories lies the reason people speak of a $48 million specimen. Money alone does not explain it. Value arises when rarity meets imagination, when something ordinary acquires a legend powerful enough to transcend logic. Perhaps a rumor started with an unusual sale, maybe a coin with an error was misreported, or someone mistook a proof-like strike for a pattern piece. Once that spark caught, it spread through television shows, newspapers, and, in the digital age, social media videos that turned whispers into myth. And myths, once born, seldom die. The 1975 D cent occupies a fascinating position in American numismatic history. It was the last full pre-bicentennial issue before the 1976 dual-date coins appeared. It represents a quiet pause, a breath before the nation celebrated its 200th year. That alone gives it symbolic weight. And because it was produced exclusively in circulation form, no proofs, no special mint sets from Denver, it maintains an air of democratic purity. Every 1975 D cent was meant for the people, not for collectors. Yet half a century later, collectors are the ones chasing it, proving how time reverses intentions. To understand the coin's design is to understand American identity in miniature. Victor David Brenner, the sculptor behind Lincoln's portrait, was an immigrant who admired Lincoln's humanity and moral strength. His initials, VDB, appear subtly at the bottom of Lincoln's shoulder on most modern cents, though in 1909 their prominence caused controversy and temporary removal. By 1975, those initials had quietly returned, blending modestly into the design. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, created by Frank Gasparo, mirrored the national monument completed in 1922. Together, the two sides form a dialogue between individual conscience and collective memory, the face of the leader and the monument that enshrines his ideals. Even the inscriptions have layers. "In God We Trust" first appeared on U.S. coins during the Civil War, a plea for divine endurance during national crisis. "Liberty" echoes the revolutionary spirit, while "E Pluribus Unum" affirms unity amid diversity. Reading these words on a 1975 D cent, minted during a decade of economic struggle and political disillusionment, feels poignant, an artifact reminding citizens of their shared foundation. Numismatists, those devoted students of coinage, often discuss the appeal of this term goes beyond technical grade, it measures how a coin feels when light plays across it. A pristine 1975 D penny, with brilliant red luster and sharply struck details, can capture light like a gemstone. The fields shimmer, the relief glows, and suddenly this tiny copper disc feels monumental. To hold such a coin is to hold perfection achieved through repetition, a singular result born of billions of attempts. That emotional reaction, multiplied across collectors, fuels the perception of immense value. Then there is the question of errors. Every mint year has its secrets: off-center strikes where the design drifts toward the rim, die breaks that produce raised lines like lightning bolts, broad strikes without collars, clipped planchets missing crescent-shaped pieces of metal, and even double die obverse where inscriptions appear ghosted in duplication. A verified dramatic error from 1975 D could indeed command huge sums. Imagine a cent struck on a foreign planchet, perhaps a coin blank intended for a dime or for an overseas contract minting project. If such a hybrid escaped detection, it would instantly become a world purchasing power. What could buy a piece of candy in 1975 barely counts today, yet that loss of practical value only increased its nostalgic worth. People hold on to pennies not for spending but for memory.
Children learn to count with them, grandparents pass them down as lucky charms.
This emotional economy, intangible yet powerful, is. Or maybe the legend persists because humans need stories of hidden fortune, proof that miracles can exist in pockets. Even if the exact figure defies reality, the narrative keeps curiosity alive, ensuring that every time someone glances at a copper cent, they wonder. And in that wondering, history lives on. When you take a magnifying glass to a 1975 cent, you're not just looking at a coin, you're gazing into an artifact that carries echoes of the bicentennial drums, of factory laborers, of the raw pulse of American production in the 1970s. You see the mark of the Denver Mint, the craftsmanship of engravers, the legacy of Lincoln himself. This is why numismatics endures, because in studying the smallest objects, we rediscover the law.
Every great legend eventually meets its believers, its skeptics, and its dreamers.
By the time the 21st century unfolded, the 1975 Lincoln cent had already crossed from being a forgotten relic of the 70s to becoming a subject of fascination whispered about in collector circles and online forums. People spoke of hidden hoards, of uncirculated rolls locked away in attics, of one mysterious coin that could change a life forever. This was not merely about copper and mint marks anymore, it had become a reflection of hope, of human yearning to uncover something extraordinary buried in the ordinary. Imagine a collector, somewhere in the American Midwest, sifting through decades of saved pennies. The room smells faintly of old paper, cardboard coin tubes, and the metallic tang of history. He empties one roll onto the table, and as the coins clatter across the wood, a reddish glint catches his eye. It is a 1975 bright and sharp, its surface is gleaming as if untouched by time. He lifts it under a magnifier, breath held, heart beating faster.
Could this be the one? Could this small piece of copper hold the secret everyone talks about, the flawless strike, the perfect doubling, the hidden error that transforms it into a masterpiece worth millions?
For a moment, possibility itself feels tangible. And that feeling, that electric pulse of maybe, is the true currency that drives collectors onward. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, auction houses began listing remarkable specimens of Lincoln cents. Some achieved record prices, a 1943 copper cent selling for hundreds of thousands, a 1955 double die commanding six figures. These stories reinforced the idea that miracles were possible. So, when whispers arose of a unique 1975 struck on an experimental alloy or with a misdated die, the imagination of the public ignited. News outlets repeated tales without confirmation, and each repetition expanded the myth until numbers like $48 million floated through conversations, impossible yet alluring. Behind every rumor there is a fragment of truth. The Denver Mint, like all industrial institutions, occasionally produced trial strikes, experimental pieces, and mint errors that never reached public record. Most were melted, but history teaches us that a few escaped.
Such accidents gave birth to legends: the 1913 Liberty Nickel, the 1933 Double Eagle, coins never meant to exist yet now priceless.
Thus, when people speak of a mysterious 1975 rarity, they invoke that same lineage of mistakes turned miracles. The idea alone sustains the legend. But there is also the quieter truth of everyday collectors, whose joy lies not in fantasy prices but in the act of preservation. These are the unseen curators of history, men and women who clean old coin albums, document varieties, study die marks under bright lamps, and trade small discoveries with reverence. For them, the 1975 cent is a bridge between eras, a token of the time when coins still held weight and warmth, when America's currency still whispered with the ring of real copper. Every coin they save resists the forgetfulness of time. The beauty of the Lincoln cent lies in its contradictions. It is the lowest denomination, yet the most produced. It is seemingly worthless, yet holds the highest sentimental value.
Schoolchildren toss it into fountains for luck, historians study it for clues about metallurgy and design.
The 1975 sitting halfway between old copper and modern zinc, becomes the hinge of that contradiction, a pivot between past substance and future symbolism. In numismatic research, every detail matters.
Specialists classify 1975 cents by subtle differences in die varieties. Some dies show stronger relief in Lincoln's beard, others a slightly tilted mint mark.
Advanced collectors hunt for repunched mint marks, where the tiny letter D was struck twice at different angles, leaving a faint shadow under magnification. These microscopic quirks tell stories about the human side of minting, the engravers adjusting punches, the inspectors missing a detail in the rush of production. Each quirk adds a new chapter to the coin's biography. And yet, beyond the microscopes and auction catalogs, there is something almost poetic about the way people project dreams onto metal. In a world that grows increasingly digital, a penny feels grounding, physical, real.
It bears scratches from countless journeys through pockets, purses, and cash registers.
To hold one is to hold continuity, the assurance that some things, however small, endure. The legend of the $48 million 1975 D penny is less about greed than about faith and hidden wonders. Perhaps that is why stories of extraordinary finds keep resurfacing. A retired machinist claims to have discovered a coin with an odd shimmer, unlike any he'd seen. A young collector posts a video online showing a 1975 D with strange doubling on the date. Experts debate authenticity, forums light up with excitement, and the cycle renews itself. The coin becomes a conversation, a catalyst for curiosity, a reminder that discovery is not a relic of the past, it still waits, possibly, in a handful of change.as. These conversations spread. Professional graders at companies like PCGS and NGC continue to receive submissions from hopeful owners. Most turn out to be ordinary, but every submission tells a story of optimism. Occasionally, a piece surprises even the experts, unusually sharp, deeply lustrous, struck from fresh dies. Those coins, though not worth millions, embody perfection within their class. Their surfaces blaze with fiery red, their fields mirror-like, their edges crisp. When encapsulated in clear plastic, they seem suspended in time. Such coins teach an important lesson: value is not only measured by price, but by preservation of excellence. The Denver Mint workers of 1975 could never have imagined that decades later their routine labor would inspire such reverence. They simply did their jobs, feeding planchets, adjusting machines, counting output. Yet history transformed their everyday actions into legend. That transformation reveals how human perception of value evolves, how time turns the mundane into the meaningful. The same principle that elevates ancient pottery shards into museum pieces now elevates modern pennies into objects of wonder. As the years rolled into the 2010s and beyond, social media gave the legend new wings. Videos showcasing rare pennies went viral, drawing millions of viewers. Thumbnails screamed of hidden treasures worth fortunes. While most exaggerated, they accomplished something profound: they made numismatics accessible to everyone. Children began searching their piggy banks, elderly collectors found renewed enthusiasm, and an entire generation learned that history could fit in the palm of a hand. Amidst this wave, the 1975 D re-emerged as a star, the mysterious year before the bicentennial, the coin that might hide unimaginable wealth. But in the quiet spaces of serious scholarship, numismatists began to reflect on deeper questions. Why do we assign such enormous worth to chance errors? Why does a tiny variation in a mint mark transform a coin's destiny? The answer lies in human storytelling. Every culture weaves myths around small objects, relics, amulets, charms. Coins are our modern talismans, forged by governors had grown up seeing his portrait daily. It wasn't merely a design, it was a national icon. And so, when collectors study the 1975 D today, they are studying more than a coin, they are studying a fragment of cultural identity. Every scratch and tone of patina is a brushstroke on the canvas of American memory. Its copper surface absorbed the touch of millions, carrying fingerprints across decades. Some of those coins may have purchased morning coffee, others sat forgotten in drawers during recessions, others lay buried in the soil only to be found gleaming again. Each one tells a human story. The legend of the $48 million PN when they find a coin that speaks to them. They describe the weight in the hand, the play of light, the subtle chill of metal warming to skin temperature. For a brief moment, time collapses, the 1970s touch the present. A small piece of history confirms its own existence. In that moment, the collector understands. Meanwhile, the market for high-grade 1975 D cents continues to grow quietly. Certified examples in top mint state grades command strong prices at auctions, while bulk copper hoards increase in intrinsic metal value as commodity prices shift. The penny's worth may fluctuate in dollars, but its symbolic value keeps climbing. Each year that passes reduces the number of pristine survivors, turning yesterday's common coins into tomorrow's rarities. One day, long after the last mint ceases production of physical CE. Time has a way of transforming the simplest objects into sacred artifacts. What was once a routine penny struck by the Denver Mint in 1975, passing unnoticed through vending machines and grocery counters, slowly becomes something more, an emblem of a vanished world. With every passing year, the 1975 D cent stops being currency and becomes memory, a tangible echo of a time when money was metal, when value could be felt with fingertips. There is something profoundly human about the urge to preserve, to assign meaning to matter. A penny, after all, should have been disposable, made to circulate endlessly, to wear down and vanish into the flow of commerce. Yet we stopped it, we protected it, we catalogued it. Why? Because within its small circle of copper we see ourselves, the passage of time, the wear of existence, the hope that some part of us might outlast our years. The 1975 D coin, with its dull gleam and steady portrait of Lincoln, becomes a meditation on impermanence and endurance. Picture a young collector decades from now. He lives in a digital world where transactions happen in silence, no coins, no bills, only invisible codes. Yet in his drawer lies a single coin, its surface aged, the date 1975 barely legible, the small d still proud beneath the numbers. He doesn't know the myths that surrounded it, he only knows that it feels real. He turns it between his fingers and imagines the countless lives it touched, the hands it passed through, the worlds it has seen. That small act of wonder is enough to keep the story alive. The 1975 cent belongs to a lineage older than the nation itself. Coins have always carried more than economic value, they carry identity. The Greeks struck gods upon their silver, the Romans their emperors, the Americans their ideals. When the United States chose Lincoln for the cent in 1909, it wasn't just about honoring a president, it was about sanctifying an idea, liberty preserved through sacrifice. Every time a penny changed hands, that idea passed quietly along with it. By 1975, amid Cold War tensions and shifting economies, Lincoln's face was a reassurance, a familiar constant amid uncertainty. In that sense, the coin is not just a relic but a mirror reflecting the collective spirit of its age. Its copper tells of a nation still tethered to tangible value, its simplicity of design speaks of modesty, its endurance of resilience. When collectors today hold a 1975 penny, they hold the weight of that ethos. Perhaps that's why even ordinary specimens evoke reverence. The tale of a $48 million penny, however exaggerated, encapsulates the mystery of value itself. What makes one object priceless while another identical one remains trivial? Rarity is one answer, but not the only one. Context, story, and emotion fuse to create worth. If tomorrow someone proved that one particular 1975 was struck on an experimental gold planchet, its value would explode, not because of metal alone but because of the narrative it fulfills. Humans are storytellers first and economists second, we trade not just goods but meanings. This realization reshapes how we see numismatics. It is not a cold science of mintages and die states, it is a living art of stories. Each coin is a sentence in the long novel of civilization. The 1975 penny occupies a quiet paragraph in that novel, bridging two chapters, the fading of copper coinage and the dawn of an electronic economy. Like a bookmark, it reminds us where we've been. In museums and private collections around the world, you can see coins that once jingled in the purses of emperors and sailors, farmers and kings. They sit behind glass now, divorced from their original purpose, yet they radiate presence. One day, perhaps centuries from now, the same will be true for the 1975 Scholars will study its metallurgical composition, its iconography, its historical context. And in doing so they will glimpse the lives of the people who once used it, the workers of the 70s, the students buying gum, the collectors who dreamed of fortunes. There is also a moral hidden within the myth of the $48 million coin. It reminds us how easily the pursuit of wealth can eclipse the quiet beauty of discovery. Many enter the world of coin collecting chasing stories of riches, but those who stay find something deeper: patience, observation, connection. They learn to see detail where others see none. The faint doubling of a date, the subtle toning of copper into crimson and brown, these become worlds of wonder. In that sense, the true value of the 1975 penny lies not in dollars but in perspective. It teaches us to look closely at small things, to respect the overlooked. Lincoln's gaze on the obverse reinforces this lesson. His expression is calm, almost introspective. The engraver Victor David Brenner captured not a politician but a thinker, a man burdened by conscience. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial repeats his image: Lincoln within Lincoln, reflection within reflection. It is as if the coin itself meditates on legacy. By 1975, that dual image had circulated for over a decade, a visual reminder that remembrance is the truest form of immortality. And yet, even as we speak of permanence, the physical penny is vanishing. Production costs exceed face value, transactions migrate online, and voices call for its retirement. When that day comes, the 1975 will no longer be a mere collectible, it will be a relic of a vanished system. In that sense, every penny saved today is an act of resistance against forgetting. It says, we remember when money had a sound, when value rang against the counter, when history could fit in a pocket. Consider the symbolic irony: a coin worth 1 cent inspiring legends of 48 million. It is a perfect metaphor for human imagination, our ability to inflate meaning, to dream beyond proportion. And yet, perhaps that inflation is not foolish but necessary. Without imagination, value stagnates. Myths, even when untrue, keep curiosity alive. As long as people believe in the possibility of a miraculous 1975 they will keep looking, learning, collecting, and thus preserving history. As the camera of memory pans across the decades, the 1975 appears in countless scenes, in dusty change jars, in coin albums, in classroom lessons, in online videos where someone excitedly says, "Could this be the one?" Each instance adds another layer to the myth. Some call it superstition, others call it hope. Both are expressions of the same human hunger to find meaning in the material world. In the quiet of night, when collectors finish their searches and the coins lie still under lamplight, there is a strange peace in their presence. The copper glows softly, almost alive, as if storing the warmth of countless hands. That glow connects generations, the mint worker of 1975, the finder of today, the dreamer of tomorrow. All bound by a single circle of metal. And so, the story returns to where it began, with a humble coin, a flicker of light, a whisper of legend. Whether or not the $48 million specimen exists matters less than the fact that we believe it could. Belief is the engine of discovery. It is what drove explorers across oceans, scientists into atoms, collectors through boxes of change. Each search, however small, affirms that the world still holds secrets worth uncovering. Perhaps somewhere, hidden in a jar, buried beneath decades of dust, lies the coin that inspired it all, the perfect strike, untouched by time, gleaming with impossible luster. Perhaps one day it will surface, and the legend will become fact. Or perhaps it will remain forever unseen, its power lying not in proof but in possibility. Either way, the 1975 D penny has achieved what few objects ever do. It has transcended its purpose. As the credits of history roll onward, the small copper coin endures. It rests in drawers and collections, in hearts and stories, a symbol of the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary. And if you listen closely, if you hold it to the light, you might still hear a faint echo, not of metal against metal, but of human wonder itself, ringing softly through time. Throughout history, some of the most legendary treasures have been discovered in the most mundane places: an attic, a forgotten drawer, a dusty box of old belongings. The 1975 D penny, seemingly ordinary, has become a talisman for such stories. Collectors recount tales of stumbling upon these coins in the change of their grandparents, in rolls purchased at banks, in jars found beneath floorboards. The thrill is universal, the sudden recognition that something so small could be extraordinary. Each discovery reinforces the myth, each find a spark of hope for the next seeker. Imagine a quiet suburban home, sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, illuminating a faded coin album. A father shows his young child the pennies he saved from decades past. Together, they slide a 1975 D into a magnifier. The copper gleams unexpectedly, sharper than expected. The child gasps, imagining it could be the mythical $48 million coin. The father smiles, knowing it is unlikely, yet appreciating the magic in that moment. This is the true power of the penny, not its monetary value, but its ability to connect generations, to ignite wonder. Auction houses have played their part in cultivating the legend. Over the years, high-grade 1975 D specimens have appeared in catalogs, sealed in protective holders, commanding attention for their luster and perfection. Professional numismatists examine these coins under bright lights, photographing every angle, noting subtle die variations. While most examples are worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, their presence in auctions elevates the narrative, reminding collectors that even the most common date can hold extraordinary possibilities. The modern collector approaches the search with both reverence and science. Ultraviolet lights, high-powered magnification, and digital photography reveal minute surface features invisible to the naked eye. Tiny scratches, microscopic die cracks, subtle toning, all become part of the story. Some enthusiasts create detailed spreadsheets cataloging hundreds of pennies, noting minor differences in relief, strike, or metal coloration. Each coin becomes a chapter in an ongoing narrative, a puzzle piece that may someday fit into a larger discovery. Yet, beyond tools and catalogs, the human element remains paramount. The excitement of discovery is intertwined with imagination. When a collector holds a 1975 D cent that is uncirculated, with radiant red fields and crisp strike, the mind naturally wonders, could there be a hidden anomaly? A mint error overlooked, a rare variation yet unrecorded? This tension between fact and fantasy is what fuels the story of the $48 million penny. It is not merely a tale of economics, it is a narrative about hope, patience, and the thrill of possibility. Sometimes, discovery is serendipitous. A retired schoolteacher recounts finding a roll of 1975 D cents tucked in a drawer, untouched for 40 years. Under magnification, one coin shows faint doubling of the date, a detail missed by all previous owners. Excitement ripples through local numismatic clubs, and the story spreads online. Enthusiasts debate whether it is an official doubled die, a minor die clash, or a unique strike anomaly. The coin itself has not changed, but perception transforms it. Ordinary copper becomes legendary through human attention, curiosity, and discussion. The legend also thrives on storytelling. Every forum post, every video, every news article expands the mythos. Phrases like "the rarest penny" or "worth millions" create a shared narrative, giving collectors a common dream. It is as if the coin exists in two realms at once: the physical world of copper and metal, and the imagined world of infinite potential. In that imagined realm, the 1975D penny becomes larger than life, a talisman, a quest object, a bridge between reality and desire. Philosophically, the coin teaches us about the nature of value itself.
What makes a small disc of metal worth anything at all?
It is not the copper, not the labor, not even the design alone. It is the layering of human perception, history, scarcity, and story.
Value is assigned, shaped, and amplified by attention.
The 1975D cent, particularly the mythical $48 million example, is an extreme case of this principle. It is a reminder that the world is not valued solely for what is, but also for what we imagine it could be. Some collectors speak of the moment of recognition, the instant a coin reveals its secrets. Perhaps a slight gleam, an unusual strike, or the unmistakable shimmer of a proof-like surface signals that the coin is exceptional.
The excitement is visceral. Fingers tremble, heart races, eyes scan every millimeter.
In that moment, a small copper disc transforms into a story, a legend, and a connection to history all at once. It is this emotional response that drives obsession, preservation, and the enduring fascination with the 1975D penny. Beyond individuals, the coin has inspired community. Numismatic clubs, online forums, social media groups, all are spaces where enthusiasts share finds, debate details, and educate one another. A single thread about a slightly off-center 1975D cent can spark hours of discussion, analysis, and speculation. These communal interactions give the penny a life beyond metal. It becomes a vessel for shared knowledge, storytelling, and passion. Through these networks, the myth of the $48 million penny is perpetuated, connecting thousands of people across generations and continents. As the documentary unfolds, one realizes that the penny's significance is not confined to monetary value.
It represents time, human curiosity, and the interplay between chance and attention.
Billions of 1975D cents were produced, yet a few may remain untouched, hidden in drawers, jars, or albums, waiting for discovery. The possibility of uncovering something extraordinary, however improbable, keeps collectors searching. That search, rather than the coin itself, is what truly fascinates. And in the end, the 1975D penny becomes a symbol of human aspiration.
It reminds us that even the smallest object can carry immense meaning. It illustrates that myths, fueled by imagination, hope, and stories passed through generations, can shape perception as powerfully as fact. The coin is both tangible and symbolic, a bridge connecting the labor of mint workers, the genius of engravers, the passage of time, and the dreams of collectors. In cinematic terms, the penny closes the loop between history and legend. The camera lingers over its copper surface, the light catching faint radial lines from the press, the D-mint mark under the date glowing subtly.
Slow motion reveals the glint of red luster, the intricate architecture of the Lincoln Memorial, the careful curves of the president's profile. These small details, magnified and celebrated, underscore the coin's dual existence, ordinary in metal, extraordinary in story. The narrative comes full circle when we imagine the mythical $48 million specimen. Whether it exists or not, its legend has already altered the way collectors, historians, and the public perceive the 1975D. It has turned a simple penny into a cultural artifact, a metaphor for hope, and a testament to the human fascination with rarity and perfection. The myth itself demonstrates that value is more than metal, it is emotion, imagination, and shared experience. So the 1975D penny endures. It survives in collections, in drawers, in the minds of enthusiasts, and in stories told across decades. It continues to spark curiosity, to connect generations, to remind us that even the smallest artifact can carry profound significance. And perhaps, somewhere, in a dusty jar or a forgotten envelope, the perfect 1975D waits silently, ready to whisper its story to the one who discovers it next. In that discovery lies the true magic, the realization that history, legend, and human wonder are inseparable. The coin is not just a piece of copper, it is a mirror reflecting our curiosity, patience, and imagination. It asks us to look closer, to value the overlooked, and to remember that even the tiniest objects can hold the weight of a million stories. The story of the 1975D penny does not exist in isolation. It is part of a lineage of coins that have captured imaginations, transcending their nominal value to become cultural icons.
From the 1943 copper cent, struck by mistake amidst steel pennies of wartime necessity, to the 1955 double die, each coin carries the twin threads of human error and human fascination.
The 1975D occupies a quieter, subtler space in that lineage, not immediately dramatic, yet profoundly enduring. It reminds us that sometimes, legend builds slowly, nurtured over decades by curiosity, speculation, and devotion. For collectors, comparisons are inevitable. The 1913 Liberty nickel, for instance, is a near mythical rarity, just 5 known examples, each commanding astronomical prices. Yet unlike that nickel, which was deliberately produced in secrecy, the 1975D penny is democratic in origin, struck for circulation and meant for everyone. That ordinary origin makes its potential for legendary status all the more compelling. It is not the deliberate artistry of rarity but the possibility of imperfection and preservation that fuels fascination. The contrast emphasizes that value is not only a product of scarcity, but also of narrative. Consider the way legends evolve. One coin becomes a story, the story becomes a myth, and the myth feeds human imagination. The $48 million valuation may never be realized, and yet its power is undeniable. Collectors, scholars, and enthusiasts continue to chase the idea, teaching new generations to examine details, preserve history, and marvel at the unexpected. It is a lesson not in commerce, but in wonder. Every 1975D cent becomes a potential chapter in that ongoing narrative, whether it remains ordinary or extraordinary. This ongoing fascination highlights something essential about human nature. We are drawn to extremes, to the improbable, to stories that challenge perception. A single penny, struck with routine precision in Denver in 1975, can embody all that, the extraordinary hidden within the mundane. Collectors describe the thrill of discovering a mint error, the emotional charge of a flawless specimen, the quiet pride of holding history in their hands. It is these experiences, repeated thousands of times across decades and continents, that cement the coin's legacy. Even the material of the coin contributes to its story. Copper, with its warm reddish tone and distinctive weight, ages in ways that enhance visual appeal. Red and brown toning can create surfaces of remarkable beauty, unique to each coin, documenting exposure to light, air, and handling. No two coins age identically, which means each 1975D carries a subtle fingerprint of its journey. The coin is not static, it lives in its wear, its shine, and the human hands it has touched. Collectors treasure these individual traits, recognizing them as chapters of history written on copper. The cultural significance of the penny also underscores its narrative power. The Lincoln cent is ubiquitous in American life, appearing in wallets, cash registers, fountains, and piggy banks for generations. Its design bridges eras, connecting early 20th century ideals to the social and economic climate of the 1970s. The 1975D, sitting on the threshold of the bicentennial, is particularly symbolic, a quiet nod to continuity amid change. In this way, every preserved coin carries not only physical weight, but historical resonance. The act of collecting, then, becomes a partnership with history. Enthusiasts preserve coins not merely for value, but for connection. Each carefully stored 1975D cent is a witness to decades of life, exchanged in commerce, lost in drawers, rediscovered by curious hands. The process of study, magnification, grading, cataloging turns observation into reverence. The legend of the $48 million penny, whether literal or metaphorical, exists because of this devotion. It reminds us that value is partly intrinsic and partly assigned, a fusion of material reality and human perception. Comparisons to other celebrated pennies reinforce this point. The 1943 copper cent, struck in error during wartime, fetches hundreds of thousands at auction. The 1955 double die cent commands even higher sums. Yet unlike these dramatic anomalies, the 1975D's mystique is subtler. It lies in speculation, in the potential for perfection, in the dream of discovery. Collectors are drawn not only to what exists, but to what could exist, to the possibility that among billions of circulated coins, one perfect specimen might remain undiscovered. That tension between reality and imagination fuels the legend. Over decades, the myth has shaped behavior. Collectors search diligently, not only in rolls and banks, but in old jars, envelopes, and forgotten collections. Online communities share observations, debating die states, tonal variations, and subtle strikes. Auction results are scrutinized for precedent, even if the coins themselves are only moderately valuable. The search itself becomes a ritual, a way to participate in history, to glimpse the extraordinary in the ordinary. The 1975D penny is more than copper, it is a lens through which human curiosity and preservation intersect. Philosophically, the coin offers lessons about time and impermanence. Minted in 1975, decades have passed, and yet it remains tangible while eras have vanished. Trends have shifted, technologies have replaced cash, and inflation has eroded purchasing power, but the coin endures. This endurance is a metaphor for legacy, what survives beyond immediate use to connect generations, inspire stories, and anchor memory. The 1975D penny, through its very existence, teaches that small objects can carry immense cultural weight. Cinematically, one can imagine a slow pan across a collection of 1975D cents, each specimen gleaming under soft lighting, each surface unique. The camera lingers on a single coin, its red copper surface reflecting decades of light and shadow, its D-mint mark crisp and proud. Perhaps the coin is ordinary, perhaps it hints at hidden perfection. The narrative invites viewers into the collector's experience, anticipation, scrutiny, and the thrill of discovery. It is in this emotional engagement that the coin achieves true legend. The legend of the $48 million penny, even if unverified, has enduring impact.
It demonstrates that human perception shapes reality. Myths inspire action, attention, and preservation.
They teach us to look more closely, to value the overlooked, and to treasure both the common and the extraordinary. The 1975 D penny, humble in origin, becomes a conduit for this lesson, a reminder that even the smallest artifact can carry profound significance. As the documentary draws toward conclusion, the narrative shifts from speculation to reflection. The coin is not simply a collectible, nor merely a story of potential fortune. It is a symbol of the passage of time, the endurance of ideals, and the capacity for human imagination. It bridges eras, connecting mint workers, collectors, historians, and dreamers. The physical object, tiny and unassuming, embodies a vast narrative, the production, circulation, preservation, and myth-making that define both numismatics and human curiosity. Finally, the cinematic ending unfolds. A hand slowly lifts the 1975 D penny, rotating it to catch the light.
The copper glows softly, warm and inviting. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse and Lincoln's thoughtful gaze on the obverse seem to converse across time.
The camera pulls back to reveal other coins, other collectors, other generations. Each holds a story, a dream, a connection to the past. The 1975 D penny, small and humble, anchors the scene, a testament to endurance, imagination, and wonder. Even if the mythical $48 million coin never emerges, its legend has already transformed perception. It reminds us that value is not merely a number, but an intersection of material, history, narrative, and emotion. The 1975 D penny is proof that ordinary objects can achieve extraordinary meaning when human curiosity and storytelling breathe life into them. And as long as people continue to look, collect, and imagine, the legacy of this simple copper disc will endure, quietly yet powerfully, across generations.
Time is the silent companion of every coin.
For the 1975 D penny, it has been patient, steady, and transformative. Born of routine minting in Denver, it has quietly observed decades unfold, touching countless hands, witnessing ordinary moments, yet accumulating meaning far beyond its copper value. It is a mirror of human experience, small, often overlooked, yet capable of carrying immense significance when observed closely. The 1975 D penny is a meditation on impermanence and endurance. Consider how it bridges generations. A grandparent who once fed coins into a vending machine, a child discovering pennies in a jar decades later, a collector carefully inspecting surfaces under bright light, all are connected by this tiny disc. Its physicality provides a tangible link to the past, a reminder that the world we inhabit is built upon countless small acts and decisions, each carrying echoes into the future. Through this coin, the past becomes accessible, intimate, and personal. Beyond its physical journey, the penny occupies a symbolic space.
Lincoln's portrait reminds us of integrity, reflection, and perseverance. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse is a monument not only of stone but of memory, a declaration of collective reverence. Together, they elevate the penny from mere currency to artifact, an object through which ideals persist. In handling a 1975 D cent, we engage with history on a tactile level, experiencing continuity in a way digital images cannot replicate. Legend plays a critical role. The story of a $48 million penny, whether real or imagined, exemplifies human fascination with possibility. Myths inspire exploration, study, and preservation. They teach patience, curiosity, and attentiveness. Every collector drawn to this narrative participates in a centuries-old human tradition, seeking the extraordinary in the ordinary. The myth, even if never realized, transforms mundane objects into vessels of imagination. The coin's materiality contributes to its mystique. Copper, with its warm reddish hue, ages gracefully, acquiring tones unique to each coin. Subtle variations in surface texture, light reflection, and toning create a distinct personality for every specimen. This individuality underscores a philosophical point: even objects produced en masse are not truly identical. Context, use, and environment shape uniqueness. In the 1975 D penny, we see an interplay between uniformity and individuality, mass production and singularity, a reflection of human experience itself. Philosophically, the coin embodies duality. It is at once ordinary and extraordinary, mundane and legendary, tangible and symbolic. It exists in reality and in imagination, in history and in myth. The pursuit of a potentially extraordinary specimen teaches lessons about attention, patience, and reverence for detail. Collectors become historians, storytellers, and guardians.
The coin's significance is as much about human engagement as it is about material composition. The legend of the $48 million penny also prompts reflection on value.
What makes an object precious? Scarcity? Beauty? Myth?
The 1975 D shows that value is a construct, shaped by perception, narrative, and context. A coin identical in composition may have vastly different worth depending on its condition, provenance, or the stories attached to it. This phenomenon illustrates that humans assign meaning to objects in ways that transcend intrinsic qualities. The penny becomes a canvas for imagination. Emotional resonance is inherent in the act of discovery. A collector's heartbeat quickens when a 1975 D glints from a pile of ordinary coins. The moment of recognition, the flash of red luster, the crispness of the strike, is fleeting, yet unforgettable. Such experiences connect us to past and future, to others who have marveled at similar coins, to the universal thrill of uncovering something rare and meaningful. In these moments, the penny transcends its metal to become an emblem of wonder. History, too, is woven into the fabric of the coin. Minted in a decade marked by social change, economic shifts, and political upheaval, the 1975 D witnessed transformation on countless levels.
Yet its design remained constant, unassuming, reliable.
In that consistency lies a lesson: permanence and identity endure even amid turbulence. The coin embodies stability, continuity, and the quiet persistence of cultural memory. The act of collecting itself becomes a meditation. Cataloging, inspecting, preserving, the processes are rituals, imbuing each coin with narrative significance. The 1975 D penny exemplifies this principle. A small object inspires care, focus, and reflection. It teaches that human attention, directed with purpose, can elevate ordinary objects into vessels of meaning. It is a lesson in mindfulness, reverence, and respect for the layers of history embedded in material culture. Comparisons with other legendary pennies underscore its place in collective imagination. The 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, and the 1913 Liberty nickel all illustrate extremes of rarity and intrigue.
Yet the 1975 DS allure is subtle, rooted in potential rather than absolute scarcity.
This subtlety makes the legend accessible to anyone willing to look closely, study carefully, and imagine what might exist. It is a legend not of certainty, but of possibility, perhaps the most compelling type. Finally, the coin prompts reflection on human desire itself. The urge to seek, to find, to discover. That one perfect example speaks to innate curiosity. We are drawn to anomalies, to perfection, to stories that stretch imagination. The 1975 D penny crystallizes this desire, reminding us that even the smallest object can inspire the largest dreams. In its copper surface, history and myth converge, offering a profound meditation on human wonder. As the documentary closes, the scene is quiet. A 1975 D penny rests in a protective holder, its surface is glowing under soft light. The camera pans slowly, capturing Lincoln's profile, the memorial, the red luster, the minute imperfections that tell a story. Beyond the physical, the coin symbolizes centuries of human engagement, craftsmanship, circulation, preservation, imagination, and myth. It is ordinary yet extraordinary, small yet monumental, fleeting yet eternal. And in that quiet reflection, the 1975 D penny whispers its final lesson: that value is not solely measured in dollars, but in attention, care, and wonder. That even the humblest object can hold a universe of stories. That history, myth, and imagination intertwine in ways that transform perception. The $48 million penny may or may not exist in reality, yet its legend teaches that the extraordinary is always possible, hidden in plain sight, waiting for those who dare to look closely. The coin, unassuming yet profound, rests as a testament to human curiosity, reverence for history, and the enduring quest to find meaning in the smallest things. It is a reminder that even a penny can become a legend, a mirror of our aspirations, a spark for imagination, and a bridge across generations. Through it, we learn that wonder is timeless, and the smallest objects often carry the weightiest stories. As the 21st century unfolds, the 1975 D penny has become both a historical artifact and a participant in the contemporary collector economy. Coins that were once casually saved in jars, drawers, and piggy banks are now carefully catalogued, graded, and preserved for their rarity and aesthetic quality. The rise of professional grading services has transformed collecting into a disciplined practice. Experts examine coins under intense light, magnification, and photography, analyzing toning, strike quality, and subtle die characteristics. In this environment, the 1975 D cent assumes a dual existence. It is both a physical object of copper and a quantified entity of grades, scores, and perceived market value. Modern auctions amplify the coin's legend. Online platforms and high-profile numismatic houses display 1975 D cents in pristine holders,
capturing their uncirculated brilliance and red luster. Collectors and enthusiasts scrutinize listings, comparing tiny differences in mint marks, die strikes, and surface preservation. Even ordinary examples now carry a subtle prestige, their potential for undiscovered anomalies, their condition, and their connection to the $48 million legend imbue them with value beyond intrinsic metal. A single penny becomes a story, a promise, and a challenge to enthusiasts worldwide. The digital age has also changed how collectors interact. Forums, social media groups, and video platforms allow enthusiasts to share discoveries, debate die varieties, and speculate on anomalies. Each 1975 cent posted online sparks discussion, offering a glimpse into human curiosity and collective imagination. A coin that may have circulated unnoticed for decades now becomes a centerpiece of conversation, its photograph sparking debates, hopes, and dreams. The narrative of the $48 million penny thrives in this ecosystem. Fact, speculation, and myth blend seamlessly, creating a living legend. Market dynamics reflect both rarity and psychology. While no verified 1975 cent has ever sold for the mythical fortune, high-grade examples consistently command strong prices. These values fluctuate with market interest, grading trends, and the scarcity of uncirculated specimens. The coin is simultaneously a commodity, a collectible, and a cultural symbol. Buyers are motivated not only by investment potential but also by the emotional resonance of owning a piece of history. The 1975 demonstrates that value is multidimensional, financial, historical, and symbolic coexist within a single small object. The coin also highlights the human obsession with perfection. Collectors strive to find specimens with flawless strike, brilliant surfaces, and minimal handling. The meticulous pursuit mirrors other forms of human endeavor, art, science, craftsmanship. It is the tension between the ordinary origin of the penny and the extraordinary quality of select specimens that captivates. The potential for uncovering a coin that exceeds expectations drives the search, sustaining both legend and engagement. Beyond collectors, the 1975 penny carries cultural resonance. It represents a snapshot of 1975 America, the economic pressures of the decade, social shifts, and the enduring symbolic power of Lincoln. It is a small, tangible connection to the era, reminding us of daily life in the mid-70s, the cash registers, the pocket change, the transactions that formed the rhythm of everyday existence. For many, the coin is nostalgia, memory, and continuity, anchoring the present to the past. The legend of the $48 million penny continues to influence behavior. Even when facts are ambiguous, the myth encourages scrutiny, preservation, and storytelling. Collectors and enthusiasts learn to examine coins carefully, to note die states, doubling, toning, and strike quality. Every observation, every shared photograph, every forum discussion sustains a culture of attention and reverence. In this way, the 1975 penny is not just a coin, it is a vessel for human engagement, curiosity, and community. Some collectors describe a transcendent experience when handling their 1975 cents. The weight in the hand, the gleam under magnification, the subtle imperfections, it is a tactile meditation on history and time. These moments create a bond between generations, the mint workers who struck the coin, the original owners who spent it, and modern collectors who study it. Each interaction layers meaning upon the coin, transforming it into a living artifact. The modern market also intersects with technology in fascinating ways. High-resolution imaging, digital grading reports, and online auctions allow coins to reach international audiences. A 1975 penny from a small town in America can now appear on a screen in Europe, Asia, or Australia, connecting collectors globally. This democratization of access amplifies the coin's legend: more eyes, more study, more possibility. Even ordinary examples gain significance through participation in this interconnected network. Yet, amidst technology and commerce, the human element remains central. The thrill of discovery, the joy of preservation, and the emotional resonance of ownership cannot be quantified. A collector carefully sliding a 1975 into a protective holder experiences a satisfaction that transcends market value. It is reverence for history, wonder at craftsmanship, and acknowledgement of continuity that drives engagement. The coin's legend is therefore sustained not by numbers alone, but by attention, care, and imagination. Comparisons with other coins reinforce this dynamic. The 1955 double die cent, the 1943 copper cent, and other famous rarities offer benchmarks in value and legend. Yet the 1975 is unique. Its fame is partially mythical, partially factual, and wholly inspirational. It demonstrates that rarity need not be absolute to captivate, potential and narrative are equally compelling. The coin teaches that attention, story, and imagination can elevate an otherwise ordinary object into a symbol of wonder. As the narrative reaches its cinematic crescendo, one can visualize a collector's table illuminated by warm light. Coins are spread carefully, each a miniature world of history.
The camera lingers on the 1975 D penny, capturing subtle red tones, the sharpness of the D mint mark, the intricate details of Lincoln's visage.
Slow focus reveals textures, faint striations, and the subtle play of light across copper surfaces.
Viewers are invited to see the coin not merely as currency, but as a portal into history, imagination, and human fascination. The story of the 1975 D penny also reminds us of impermanence and preservation.
Coins in circulation wear down, lose detail, or vanish entirely.
Collectors' dedication safeguards these small artifacts, ensuring that history survives in tangible form. The legend of the $48 million penny encourages this preservation, inspiring future generations to value, study, and marvel at the ordinary turned extraordinary. Ultimately, the coin's enduring appeal lies in its intersection of history, mythology, and human curiosity. It is a tangible link to the past, a canvas for imagination, and a subject for study.
Its small size belies its cultural and emotional weight.
The 1975 D penny, humble in face value, transcends its monetary role to become a symbol of the search for wonder, the thrill of discovery, and the persistence of stories across time. In conclusion, the 1975 D penny is more than metal. It is history compressed into copper, myth waiting to be verified, and a reminder that even the simplest objects can inspire awe. It bridges generations, connects collectors worldwide, and teaches that value is as much about perception, story, and imagination as it is about currency. As the documentary pans away from the coin, the light catching its surface one final time, viewers are left with a sense of continuity, wonder, and the timeless thrill of discovery, an invitation to look closely, dream boldly, and appreciate the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. As the decades advance, the 1975 D penny becomes more than an artifact, it transforms into a symbol of continuity and human aspiration. Minted in an era of economic uncertainty and social change, it quietly observed the unfolding of history, the rise of new technologies, shifts in culture, and the ebb and flow of human ambition. Yet unlike fleeting trends, the penny endures, carrying within it the imprint of countless hands, the echoes of everyday life, and the subtle magic of possibility. Its small size belies its significance. A single disc of copper becomes a canvas for human imagination.
Every scratch, every toning variation, every faint dye mark tells a story of circulation, of interaction, of time itself. To hold a 1975 D penny is to hold a fragment of history that is simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary.
Its presence prompts reflection: how much of the past survives in the objects we overlook, and how much meaning can be found in attentiveness, care, and reverence. Legend and reality intertwine in the narrative of the $48 million penny.
The figure itself may be mythical, yet the legend serves a purpose beyond financial speculation. It inspires curiosity, sustains collector culture, and fosters preservation. It reminds us that human fascination often resides not in certainty, but in possibility.
The story of a mythical fortune attached to a tiny coin teaches a profound lesson that imagination, hope, and meticulous attention to detail can elevate the mundane into the extraordinary. There is an inherent drama in the act of discovery. Collectors describe moments when a 1975 D glints unexpectedly from a pile of ordinary coins, the red copper catching light just so. The heart races, the breath quickens, and for an instant, time seems suspended.
In that instant, the ordinary transforms into the remarkable.
These experiences reveal the emotional power of the coin. It is not merely currency, but a vessel for wonder, connection, and reflection. Philosophically, the penny embodies dualities. It is a product of mass production, yet every coin is subtly unique.
It is common in origin, yet extraordinary in potential. It is tangible, yet symbolic.
These contrasts reflect human existence itself. We navigate ordinary routines while imagining, hoping, and striving for something more. The 1975 D penny, in its humble copper form, becomes a mirror of human aspiration, a reminder that significance is often discovered, not assigned. The coin's legacy is reinforced through human engagement. Collectors meticulously document, preserve, and analyze each specimen. Online communities discuss minute details, sharing insights about dye varieties, surface toning, and potential errors. Every discussion, photograph, and observation adds layers to the story, creating a collective narrative in which the coin lives not just physically, but culturally. The 1975 D penny demonstrates that value extends beyond metal and minting. It resides in attention, curiosity, and shared imagination. Historically, the coin sits at a crossroads. Minted during the mid-70s, it predates the bicentennial celebrations and exists just before significant changes in currency composition and design. It is a bridge between eras, the continuity of Lincoln's visage, the stability of the cent, and the subtle shifts in material and production methods. It anchors a moment in time, offering collectors a tactile connection to an era that is now largely digital, intangible, and distant. In cultural terms, the penny exemplifies the human tendency to assign meaning. We look for stories in the smallest objects. A coin becomes a talisman, a record, a legacy. The mythical $48 million valuation demonstrates the power of narrative. It elevates ordinary metal into legend. Collectors, historians, and enthusiasts engage with the coin not merely for monetary gain, but for the thrill of connection, discovery, and participation in a larger story. The coin becomes a bridge between the factual and the imagined, history and myth. Emotionally, the 1975 penny resonates because it is accessible yet mysterious. Anyone can hold one, yet the possibility exists that a unique specimen lies hidden, waiting to be discovered. This tension between the everyday and the extraordinary mirrors human desire. We are drawn to what is near at hand, yet long for moments of revelation, for experiences that transform perception. The penny embodies this tension perfectly, small in scale but monumental in symbolic weight. Cinematically, one can envision a dimly lit room, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating a collector's workspace. Coins are spread meticulously across a felt mat, magnifiers hovering, reference books open. A hand reaches for a 1975 penny, lifting it carefully to inspect the red luster and crisp details.
Time seems suspended.
The camera focuses on the intricate design, the curves of Lincoln's profile, the subtle details of the memorial. In that frame, viewers sense not only the coin's physical presence but its emotional resonance, the thrill of discovery, the weight of history, and the quiet power of myth. The legend of the $48 million penny also teaches patience.
Collectors often search for decades, studying rolls, researching dies, and comparing minute details. The pursuit itself becomes a discipline, a form of meditation, a way to engage with history intentionally.
The coin transforms into a teacher. It rewards diligence, attention, and care, reinforcing the value of sustained observation over immediate gratification. In broader terms, the 1975 penny demonstrates the interplay between chance and human perception.
The physical coin exists objectively, yet its value and significance are shaped by context, attention, and imagination. A specimen untouched for decades may hold potential that only becomes apparent through careful study. The legend underscores that perception is as critical to value as material reality. It is a philosophical reminder that even ordinary things can acquire extraordinary significance through human engagement. Finally, the coin encourages reflection on legacy. Minted in 1975, it connects generations: the workers who pressed it, the people who used it in daily transactions, the collectors who preserve it, and the dreamers who speculate on its myth. Each interaction layers meaning, creating a continuum of engagement that transcends individual lifespans. In this way, the penny is a vessel of memory, narrative, and imagination, a small object carrying the weight of human experience across time. As the documentary moves toward its final chapter, the 1975 penny is revealed as more than a coin. It is a story, a teacher, a symbol, and a bridge across generations. It embodies history, myth, curiosity, and hope.
It reminds us that value is not solely monetary, but emotional, cultural, and imaginative. And in that quiet reflection, the coin whispers a timeless truth: even the smallest objects can carry immense significance, and wonder can be found in the most unassuming places. As the story of the 1975 penny reaches its conclusion, one realizes that the journey is as much about human imagination as it is about the coin itself. The copper disc, small and unassuming, carries centuries of legacy in its quiet weight. It has passed through countless hands, witnessed the flow of ordinary life, and yet retained the capacity to inspire extraordinary fascination. It is a testament to endurance, curiosity, and the power of storytelling. The camera lingers on a single 1975 cent, resting in a protective holder. The red luster catches the light, the mint mark shines subtly beneath the date, and Lincoln's contemplative gaze seems to transcend time. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse mirrors this timelessness, a reminder that monuments are not only carved in stone but also stamped in metal, small yet enduring symbols of collective memory. In that moment, the penny becomes more than currency. It is a bridge across generations, a tangible link between past, present, and future. Throughout this journey, we have seen that the legend of the $48 million penny, whether literal or imagined, serves a greater purpose. It sparks curiosity, drives preservation, and fuels imagination. Collectors, historians, and enthusiasts dedicate time, attention, and care to something ordinary, turning it into extraordinary. The myth transforms perception, demonstrating that value is as much a construct of human engagement as it is of material reality. The penny teaches us about the subtleties of time. Minted in 1975, it has witnessed decades of transformation, cultural shifts, technological revolutions, and the rise of the digital economy. Yet it remains tangible, quiet, and resilient. It embodies the continuity of history, showing us that even amid change, there are constants, small objects, human curiosity, and the stories we choose to tell. Its legend underscores the thrill of possibility. Somewhere, perhaps tucked in a drawer, hidden in a jar, or forgotten in an old album, a perfect 1975D may await discovery.
It is this potential that sustains fascination, the idea that among billions, something extraordinary might lie unnoticed.
The pursuit itself, the patient inspection, careful cataloging, and thoughtful discussion, is as meaningful as the discovery. In that pursuit, the coin becomes a teacher, instilling patience, reverence, and wonder. Beyond monetary value, the coin represents connection. It links mint workers who struck it, the families who used it, the collectors who studied it, and the dreamers who imagined its legend. It bridges time and space, creating a shared human narrative in which ordinary objects gain extraordinary resonance. The 1975D penny is a story of continuity, of human curiosity, and of the quiet power of attention. In cinematic terms, one can imagine a final montage: a hand lifts the penny to the light, sunlight streaming through a window illuminates its copper surface, subtle red tones glowing. Collectors gather around albums and trays, comparing specimens, pointing out minute details, and sharing stories. In the background, soft ambient music swells, echoing the heartbeat of history, curiosity, and discovery. The camera pans upward, revealing generations connected by a single coin, the ordinary transformed into legend. The penny also symbolizes imagination's role in human experience. Myths, like the $48 million legend, shape perception, inspire action, and preserve history. Even when unverified, they encourage careful observation, patient study, and a love for the story itself. The coin becomes a vessel for narrative, showing us that wonder is not merely discovered, but cultivated. As the documentary nears its closing moments, viewers are invited to reflect on the lessons embedded in the 1975D penny. Small objects, often overlooked, can carry immense significance. Human attention, care, and imagination transform the mundane into the extraordinary. History is preserved not only in books or museums, but in the objects we choose to study, protect, and cherish. The 1975D penny exemplifies this principle, a humble disc of copper that embodies endurance, curiosity, and the timeless pursuit of meaning. Finally, the coin rests quietly in its holder, yet its story reverberates beyond its physical form. It is a reminder that every object has potential, that ordinary things can inspire extraordinary reflection, and that human fascination shapes the legacy of even the smallest artifact. In that quiet, enduring presence, the 1975D penny whispers its final message: value is found not just in metal or money, but in attention, care, and imagination. The legend continues, the story persists, and wonder remains eternal. And as the screen fades to black, the last image lingers: the small, brilliant red copper coin, humble in size, monumental in meaning, a symbol of curiosity, continuity, and the extraordinary power of ordinary objects. The 1975D penny, ordinary yet legendary, reminds us that even the smallest things can carry the weight of history, imagination, and human wonder.